हम परदेसी, हम परदेसी, हम परदेसी, हम परदेसी, पंछी बाबानी दे आणि देत हम परदेसी, हम परदेसी, पंछी बाबानी देत आणि देत लोग अचेता आणि देसरा लोग अचेता पल पल पर पछताई भाई संतो आणि देसरा हम परदेसी, हम परदेसी, पंछी बाबानी दे आणि देसरा आणि देसरा लोग अचेता आणि देसरा लोग अचेता पल पल पर पछताई भाई संतो मुख बिन गाना।
मित्रों, इंडिया इंटरनेशनल सेंटर और रजा फाउंडेशन के संयुक्त तत्वाधान में आयोजित रघु राय स्मृति में आने के लिए आपका बहुत आभार। मैं हिंदी में जानबूझकर बोल रहा हूँ। एक तो मेरी अंग्रेज़ी उतनी अच्छी नहीं है और दूसरा ये है कि रघु राय कहते थे कि तुम हिंदी में बोला करो जी, अंग्रेज़ी क्यों बोलते हो। तो कम से कम उनकी मरणोत्तर ये इच्छा मैं पूरी कर रहा हूँ। बहुत सारा भारत हमने रघु राय के माध्यम से जाना, क्योंकि भारत इतना ज़्यादा है और इतना फैला हुआ है, वो कहाँ कहाँ है कि हम में से कोई अकेला उसको जान भी नहीं सकता। और ये ऐसा भारत है जो सिर्फ बड़े बड़े लोगों, वो तो वैसे ही आजकल बहुत उभराए रहते हैं, लेकिन बड़े बड़े लोगों के अलावा बहुत साधारण लोगों का भारत है। उसमें वैसे राजनेता भी हैं और खिलाड़ी भी हैं और मदर टेरेसा भी हैं, लेकिन उनके अलावा बहुत बड़ी संख्या में साधारण लोग हैं। और मुझे लगता है कि कम से कम हमारे लोकतंत्र में साधारण लोगों के सबसे बड़े गाथाकारों में रघु राय की गिनती होगी। और ये लोग अपनी बहुलता में तो हैं ही, अपनी अदम्य जिजीविषा में हैं, अपने संघर्ष और पराजय में हैं, अपनी भव्यता और अपनी निपट साधारणता में भी हैं। साधारण की गरिमा और महिमा रघु राय ने अद्भुत कौशल से चित्रित की। उत्सवों में, मेलों में, सूनी सड़कों पे, जंगल में। ताजमहल अपनी भव्यता में है और ठीक उसके बगल में, उसके पड़ोस में एक कोई झुग्गी है, वो भी रघु राय के कैमरे से कभी बाहर नहीं हुई। बल्कि कई बार मैं सोचता हूं, जैसे एक बार मैंने मकबूल फिदा हुसैन के बारे में सोचा था कि हुसैन एक हुसैन लीला है, जैसे रामलीला होती है वैसे हुसैन लीला है। तरह तरह की जिंदगी के नक्शे, छवियां, आकार, रूप हुसैन के यहाँ ठीक उसी तरह से तरह तरह की छवियां इस रघु लीला में शामिल हैं। और भव्यता के बगल में निपट साधारणता का पड़ोस। और ये सिर्फ साक्षी फोटोग्राफर की बात नहीं है, ये सहचर फोटोग्राफर की। वो जो दूर से नहीं देखता, वो जो आपके साथ देखता है। अगर आप थोड़ा बहुत हिंदी जानते ही होंगे, इतने क्या अंग्रेजी ना हो गए हैं, तो बहरहाल अगर जानते होंगे तो साहचर्य और साक्षी में फर्क है। साक्ष्य गवाह देना, गवाही थोड़ी दूर से होती है कि मैंने ये घटना देखी। साहचर्य वो होता है जब बगल में बैठ के होता है, साथ में बैठ के होता है, एक हम आहंगी। और समय की सलवटें, परतें, दरारें, झुर्रियां सब अंकित हैं। हंसी और विलाप। असल में उनसे उनका एक पक्ष जो ज्यादातर लोगों को शायद नहीं मालूम, या अच्छा मालूम होगा तो मुझे नहीं मालूम, वो था शास्त्रीय संगीत में उनकी दिलचस्पी। शास्त्रीय संगीतकारों के बहुत लोगों ने चित्र लिए, लेकिन अगर आप रघु राय के चित्र देखें तो वो एक तरह की इन संगीतकारों की रागमाला है। वो उनको इतने रूपों में उन्होंने फोटोग्राफ्स लिए। मल्लिकार्जुन मंसूर गाते हुए भी और बिल्कुल ध्यानमग्न भी, और एक खेत में खड़े छाता लिए हुए और बगल में एक ट्रैक्टर खड़ा। ऐसा चित्र मल्लिकार्जुन मंसूर का किसने और देखा होगा। इसी तरह से उन्होंने तमाम संगीतकारों के जो चित्र लिए हैं। और दिलचस्प बात यह है कि ये महान संगीतकार कितना साधारण जीवन बिताते हैं, इसकी छवियां हैं। चाहे वो कुमार गंधर्व हों, चाहे मल्लिकार्जुन मंसूर हों, चाहे और तो उनकी नजर साधारणता पर इतनी पैनी और एकाग्र थी कि वो महान में भी साधारण की खोज कर लेते थे। और ये दिलचस्प है, इसलिए दिलचस्प है कि महान का तो बहुत ही दिव्य और आकर्षण और ये होता है। आजकल तो महान बहुत परिधान वगैरह बदलता रहता है, लेकिन एक ज़माना था जब परिधान सीधा साधा होता था और इतना नहीं बदला जाता था। लेकिन फिर भी महान का एक बड़ा रौब था। इस रौब के बरक्स महान की साधारणता को भी खोज पाया। जो निपट सामान्य जीवन है किसी सादा महान व्यक्ति का, उसको भी खोज पाना, दिखा पाना, ये अद्भुत प्रतिभा थी। और आखिर कोई भी महानता साधारण जीवन से ही उपजती है। अगर एक सबक मैं चाहूं रघु राय की पाठशाला में बैठकर सीखना, तो मैं वो सीखूंगा कि कैसे साधारण रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी से ही महानता अगर किसी तरह की है, संभव है। ये साधारण जीवन ही पोसता है महानता को, और उसी को हम अक्सर दुर्लक्ष्य करते हैं। जबकि रघु राय सौभाग्य से, भारतीय कलाओं के सौभाग्य से एक ऐसे फोटो कलाकार थे जिन्होंने इस साधारण को देखा और हमें इतनी अपार छवियों में दिखाया। उन्होंने जो अपने संगीतकारों की एक छवियों की एक पुस्तक द ग्रेट मास्टर्स ऑफ इंडिया, उसमें लिखा, just as a good picture prolongs the life of that captured moment, the quality of these masters' music has the ability to transform the listening experience into something more divine, something that gives one complete fulfillment. Classical music, in its essence, is the music of bliss. That was Raghu Rai. Friends, we wanted this evening to be devoted to his art and vision. Not so much to the man, because most of you know him, perhaps many of you in any case know him personally, and you will have very good memories, just as I have. So I have requested our three speakers to speak about his art. We will start with Roobina Karode, who is one of the most outstanding curators of India today, and she curated a wonderful exhibition, a large, massive exhibition of Raghu Rai in Kiran Nada Museum a few months ago. So we have Roobina Karode. Then we have Jatin Das, a well-known painter who would be speaking. And finally, we'll have Ananya Vajpeyi, who's a social scientist. After these three brief talks, I hope they're as brief as mine, we would have a film on Raghu Rai made by his daughter Avni to be shown. So please be patient. You're here to remember and to recall a great contemporary of us all. Thank you. And Roobina ji.
संजीव एक सेकंड, ये कैसे ऑपरेट होगा? मुझे फुल फ्रेम कर दोगे?
फुल फ्रेम ही है पीछे,
तो मुझे एक एक करके जाना है।
बस ये खाली
ओके,
पीछे।
थैंक यू अशोक जी. Thank you IIC and Raza Foundation for inviting me to speak about Raghu Rai. I find it extremely difficult to separate the man from his art, and so it would be both together. Much is already known about Raghu Rai as a critically acclaimed photographer, photojournalist, who received many national honors, including the Padma Shri, and gained international eminence through decades of tireless commitment to his work. He was a bookmaker, made 18 books or so, and many assignments. And most importantly, I remember his zest for life. That remained his muse and his inspiration all along. Raghu Rai, one could say without a doubt, was an institution in himself. And as that, he will be spoken and written about, not just today, but for generations to come. I'm going to speak and share glimpses of Raghu Rai that I came to personally understand working with him. All of us grew knowing about him through his photographs that were a regular feature in our lives. he started, he went from Hindustan Times to Statesman and later on to Magnum and India Today. The first time I spoke with Raghu Rai ji was when I was curating an exhibition, a retrospective exhibition on Himmat Shah, which was around 2014 and 15. I needed to get loans of 2 sculptures that Raghu had of Himmat Bhai. Himmat Shah had already shared a lot about him to me, how he and Raghu spent time together. They shared a barsati. They spent time together and spared none when it came to criticism about how the world functioned around them. They were on their own distinct individual journeys, but shared one thing in common, and that was an attitude which was of a soul-searching wanderer. They were the Kalandars, so to say, manmoji, and were able to leave and go wherever they wanted to, travel wherever they wanted to, and that remained their purpose as if in life. Back to my story, when I called Raghu Rai, the first impression I gathered was a man who spoke in a tone of arrogance. He firmly said he would loan the works, but not without knowing how and where they would be displayed, also pointing out how precious the works were to him. I assured him that I would send a plan of the exhibition and share with him exactly where these sculptures would sit. On the day of the opening of Himmat's retrospective, Raghu Rai was at the side of his friend, looked very happy. And I would say, I'm saying that more than a few times he visited the exhibition, and the next thing I heard from Kiran was that Raghu Rai expressed to her that he so loved Himmat's exhibition that he would really like KNMA to do a major show of his curated by me. Okay. Raghu was known to be a man outspoken and never minced his words. His compliments were full-hearted and his criticism came from the same honesty too. Trained to be a civil engineer, he believed he was fortunate to discover his calling, and that too by accident. That is how my friendship with Raghu Rai began. And the person who really was crucial for this bridge was Devika Daulat Singh, director of Photo Inc., and who worked very closely with Raghu's archives. She also co-curated the exhibition, and she was the one who exposed me to the inexhaustible archive of Raghu Rai, which had thousands of pictures which had not yet been even developed. So you can imagine the extent and the kind of hard work that could have gone into really putting this inexhaustible archive in place. But for a curator who has to work within the constraint of a space, it's very important how to delimit an exhibition. And I had this crucial situation where if I would think of doing an exhibition of Raghu Rai, I could not even present a sampler if I did not take hundreds of images. That was the extent of his archive. And I started studying photography exhibitions that happen all over the world. And I realized that sometimes curators take a stand that they want to show excess, because the archive is so excessive that you just cannot do justice to somebody like Raghu Rai, who was so prolific. I mean, he slept with a camera, literally. I've heard that the only thing he wanted on his side was a camera, and morning he was gone. And he was gone for months at times. Here was Raghu Rai, and so we decided that we would only show in the exhibition his analog photographs from 1965 to 2004. And that is how we delimited the exhibition to really focus on Raghu's oeuvre. I'm just going to start with my learnings about Raghu Rai were gradual. A great eye he was, but he was also a man of conviction, determination, and courage. His passion and his obsessive energy for his craft was unstoppable. He was known for his bluntness, his no-nonsense attitude, and his opinions. But that hardly bogged him down because he could never tame his spirit, either in life or in art. Several interactions and studio visits revealed a very fascinating storyteller. For hours, me and my team would be sitting there listening to him and would be completely taken by the idea that here was a man who vividly had memories of every picture that he had taken. He had an extraordinary ability to gather experiences and insights into life as it unfolded, but also remember them so clearly. And that is what my thesis or my premise is, that he was never for a perfect image, but he always pursued a precise image. That image with a clarity was extremely important for Raghu. He saw India, and everybody has spoken about it, that Raghu's India is something that we will remember, and we will see India through his eyes forever. And he believed that he would not know India unless he really went out there. And therefore he told me that when he gave up civil engineering, for a couple of years he was only wandering and meandering in Delhi, especially in Old Delhi, streets of Old Delhi, by lanes, corners, sitting on the roads, literally living there, enjoying or really absorbing the live theatre that unfolded in front of his eyes. He loved the simultaneity of happening. There was so much happening. There was no way that one could think about photography as pointing towards, as a gaze, let's say, not as gaze. He was constantly looking everywhere, and that is how his pictures or his photographs also started, unfolding simultaneity that he observed, whether it was in streets, by-lanes, nooks and corners, walls and facades, bridges, bazaars, rooms and ruins, everything nothing missed his eye. The pulsating momentum of every day was something that he was so fascinated by. And that is what he saw closely. And he believed he was an insider who was looking into these things, walking with people, not just observing them, but walking with them, living with them, being one of them. And that was something that he absolutely believed in. These are the first two photographs that he ever took. One is the baby donkey, which has a story that one of his elder brother's friend was going to a village, and Raghu said that at that time I was only cooking and taking care of my elder brother. I decided that I would go for 2-3 days to the village with his friend and asked for a small camera. That's what a film was loaded on that camera, and he went off. And he took pictures, just took pictures, the way he would feel free to take pictures. And one of the pictures was of this baby donkey who would not pose, who would not stand still. Every time Raghu went to him, he ran away. And Raghu chased him. And children got amused, so he further chased him. And it went on till the donkey got tired. Once he got tired, he posed. And that is the picture that Raghu took. And when he came back and the role was processed, he says that my elder brother was quite amazed. He says, "This is an amazing picture." He says, "Do you think so, that I have some talent?" He says, "Yes, I'm going to send this off." And that's how the picture went to the Times magazine and won a space and a prize. And that's how Raghu was launched. But from there the story goes on, and then the next picture that you see. So what I'm trying to show is that some are moments when he's outside, and most of the time outdoor light was very important for Raghu. But there were pictures which were more intimate, were indoors, and here is one of his father's hands and his son's hands, his firstborn child. And he said they were playing with each other. And I think for Raghu from the beginning, contrasts were very important. Contrasts and contradictions are so important in life. And for Raghu, that was extremely important as a picture maker or as an artist photographer. And what you see here is the little baby's hands holding the aging hands of the grandfather. And that contrast is what he tried to capture in the picture. But Raghu's canvas grew, expanded. In fact, he was wanting the whole world to be seen in his photographs. And this is Chowdi Bazaar, which is a very, very important work of Raghu Rai's. And he always talked about this picture with great, he loved to speak about this photograph, and he kept saying that this could be an India 200 years before me as well. But for me, this transition and this coexistence of so many things, together, whether there are horse carriages, whether there are hand-pulled carts, whether there are steel pipes talking about industrialization, whether there are children going to school, there is this kind of chaotic order or chaotic kind of coexistence that for Raghu was extremely enchanting, so to say. And he took pictures, a lot of pictures of Chowdi Bazaar, and this was something that he really enjoyed. His pictures don't have that stillness. They are actually in action or in momentum, as he really catches or captures the frenetic energy of that moment. And he's always spoken about the energy of the moment, the present moment. The energy of the moment is extremely important for a photograph to come alive. And this was Chowdi Bazaar. And then his lens became more and more panoramic, which is very interesting, from something so abstracted like the two hands to something so panoramic, where he got very interested in looking at crowds, looking at a very lateral expansion of a vision, and really how much can a photograph stretch itself to capture the world or bring the world in. And this is actually Indira Gandhi in 1967 addressing a mammoth kind of gathering, and she's speaking from the ramparts of the Red Fort. And what we see is really specks. People have turned into little specks of light and shade. But you can imagine the rigor and the discipline that Raghu had acquired, where he was unstoppable. He would go for stories in Jama Masjid to take a picture of a particular kind. He would climb trees to be able to gather some kind of an understanding of a perspectival view. He wanted the reality, the lived reality, to all flow into his work. And this is one of those panoramic views which was really applauded, because he took several of such rallies that he really actually captured during his lifetime. But also, everyday life, as Ashokji said and pointed out, the extraordinary in the ordinary. How do you really pick up the extraordinary in the ordinary? And here is an everyday scene, an everyday activity. And Raghu is very interesting from that point of view, that his work almost brings in different religions, different ethnic groups, different kinds of vocations, different kinds of laboring bodies, so much that he focuses on, in his work and through his images, that really reveals so much about the place, whether it's Calcutta, whether it's Delhi, whether it's Old Delhi, the streets that he walked, the places that he lived. And you can see for yourself the kind of detailing. And he always had a grainy texture to his photograph, and he was very, very particular about light, the behavior of light, and the way that light would really bring the drama to life, the lived textures, as he called. This was the exhibition at KNMA in 2024, and it was called 1,000 Lives. So you enter through a doorway and you see a very interesting photograph by Raghu Rai, where it's a photo studio on the roads, on the streets, and a photographer is taking a picture. As you enter, you had these panoramic spreads of his works, very large works, so to say, that really talked about also Indira Gandhi's helicopter landing in a place in Rajasthan, and there is a windstorm or a dust storm, and it's almost like वो आँखों में धूल झोंकना वाली बात, सबकी आँखों में धूल झोंक दी, and then she left because that meeting could not happen or something. But Raghu would very jokingly and very with full humor talk about it, how he interpreted it. And I think it is true that every picture for him was not about, every photograph for him was not about technique. And we know this, that all great artists have talked about technique. You know, art must exceed technique. Technique is just a tool, an apparatus, but something that goes beyond it, goes beyond technique, is what makes it art. And a lot of his work is also about how he infuses social and political commentary into the photograph. You can read the nuances of, you know, how his political and cultural and social imagination came into play as he was taking photographs, though he believed that while taking photographs or while making art, you need to suspend your rational, your excess of cognition, because that interferes with your intuitive and instinctive energies. So reflection is, of course, something that happens after you have taken a picture or before, but he would rather after, because he believed in an emergent reality, not reality that is meditated upon. You know, he wanted to really think about reality as emergent, as you step in and you see something happening in front of you, and how do you capture the pulse of that reality, that moment. Here is another view of the exhibition. And the centerpiece here, the work that you see right in the center, is this. And he spoke highly about, he was full of praise of his own photograph and said, this is a photograph I really love. And I asked him why, because you have many. He said, this particularly I love because of two reasons. One is, I followed this woman for at least more than half a kilometer as she was taking this burden on an incline. She was pushing it on an incline. Her husband is invisible because he's standing, you can see his legs in the front, but you see the woman who is really bearing the burden and who's really I was taken by the power of the woman. She was so energetic and she would not give up, and she was her perseverance showed, and she was pushing the cart as her husband just stood in front and dragged it further. And I followed for half a kilometer, and then I was taking pictures, but I was not happy with anything that I was doing as I was walking along with her. Then finally, I looked at my camera and found that I had only one image left in the roll. And that was this image. And the moment I clicked it, I knew that I had got the picture that I intuitively was responding to. And that's how this picture for him, or this photograph for him, was really iconic in a way. I'm, again, laboring bodies, as I said. Here you see a woman, you just saw a woman pushing the cart. Here, oh God, what is happening? Is the picture there? Yeah. Again, the scale, the play of scale, the play of how life goes on. There are people who are not even looking at somebody who might be taking such a burden and, you know, walking the street. You see things happen, and he decides what is the most significant aspect, or what is the most significant moment to capture in that particular work. But this was Raghu. He was interested in scale, he was interested in multi-dimensional reality, he was interested in a perspectival rendering, he was interested in many contrasts and many contradictions that he always wanted to point out to us. And this is an image, very striking image, of a man who is carrying his dead wife. This is Bhopal, and running past the street. Again, as you can see, he is actually drawing our attention to the most important thing there, which is this bundled up image of the man and his dead wife, and then other details as they follow. Raghu Rai spoke a lot about darshan, and this concept of darshan, which he was always talking about, how there is something beyond there's something called an inner eye. Okay. And I felt at one point he was so precise and clear and unsentimental. about things. He never wanted to bring sentimentality into the work because for him that clarity was very important. Whatever had to be conveyed, that had to be conveyed as you have to be accountable and responsible in the way that you witness and the way you capture images and present them. But he talked about something like divine intervention, which I found very, very interesting. And this is a picture, this is a photograph he spoke about at length, where Jama Masjid, of course, or the Old Delhi was really his kind of a muse for many years. And he used to go there very regularly. And a man observed him, a Muslim man used to observe every day Raghu Rai sitting in New Delhi, Old Delhi, taking pictures, spending time, spending hours, day, early morning, night. So one day the man walked to him and said, "What do you do?" He said, "I take pictures." Said, "Okay, then if you want to see Old Delhi, I will make you see Old Delhi. You come with me." So he took him up from God knows what staircases inside Old Delhi houses and up on the roof of some house, which was 4 floors or something, from where Raghu saw this view. And he was totally in awe of what he was seeing. And it was evening, it was getting to be evening time. And when he was seeing everything and just going through this whole panorama, he saw a woman praying, sitting alone and praying in that little room. And his eye went there and he started thinking, wow, but there's something missing here. I'm looking at the woman, I'm looking at the city and the cityscape. And all of a sudden, while he was thinking what was missing, down came these grey clouds and they descended there. And he said, that moment, I had like a spark in my head, something sparked in me, and I took the photograph and the clouds disappeared. He started believing in this could have happened only if there was a divine intervention, that his photograph would not have been completed without the clouds coming down and the clouds disappearing. Similarly, he took a picture in his early years of birds eating grains on the ground. They were all white birds. He was fascinated that birds were being fed all the time on the roads and streets. But he felt something was missing or was amiss at the moment. And suddenly a black crow lands up and everybody makes space for him. And he comes, Raghu takes a picture and he flies away. Now there are many such instances I can talk about where Raghu Rai was convinced that there is something that you cannot complete your picture, for that matter. You can't complete your photograph. There is something spiritual about it. It's not just physical, it's not just mental, it's not just intellectual that you're taking a photograph of something. There is something more to it. And that part for him was extremely important. What he felt was the divine presence of the intervention that happened. And this work has been spoken about at length. And another one with the immersion. Raghu believed in immersion because, as you said, he was somebody, he was so tuned to music and rhythm. Even his phone ringtone was Urja Hansa Kela, the Kumar Gandharva thing. He would, if you entered a studio, you would feel like you've entered a place where you want to meditate, because the music that would be playing would be such. And you would sit there and you would listen to him and then listen to music and then see the works, and you start thinking about what are the connections, how do you really put these things together. But you start, whatever you absorb, being in the company of an artist when he speaks, or his work, or what he plays, what he likes, what objects surround him, what does he talk about life, he always mentioned nature. And nature was extremely important to him because he believed that nature gave that signal. Nature is that divine signal, let's say, in terms of how he got inspired. And when I look at this work, I feel that he was looking at Durga image and then he was looking at how Durga image could be seen in those clouds. Literally, seeing that image there, and exactly taking the clouds for him became like his visual comrades. They were always there to show him the horizon sometimes, to show him nuances, sometimes to talk about shadows, sometimes about mysterious presences, and sometimes about elusiveness. Elusiveness is also part of something that you very clearly see, but still there is something elusive about it. And he talked about such things at times, and I feel that spirituality that he referred to was not about icons, was not so much about worship, was not so much even about rituals and prayers. It was a lot about an act of photography can also be an act of spirituality. You can spiritually be responding, and your body and soul, your everything gets immersed into or gets into it, and that's how you start making associations and start seeing what you actually would not just be seeing through your eye, so to say. He did a huge enduring, and one thing I must tell you about Raghu Rai, which I like of all artists that I have done retrospectives about, I think one thing that I admire most is endurance. Endurance is the test of time. If you can endure something that you pursue for 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, then that says a lot about you. It's a practice which is sustainable, or you have sustained it. It's a sustained practice. It's not something touristic. It's not something for pleasure. It's not just because you want to do it. You are making it your life breath. You are making it your life breath. That's what I felt about Tayyar. That's what I felt about many other artists that I did retrospectives about. That it really takes you into their mind's workings, in the way that they see the world. They want to see more. They are so curious. I can say the same thing about Ghulam Mohammad Sheikh. Even today, at 89, I feel he's so curious to learn everything about the world. Even a little action that, we use this Voyager. What is a Voyager? Okay, sir, with Voyager you can do... I want to know what this is, I want to learn about it. This curiosity about how much the world can be known till we are alive is amazing. It was absolutely amazing to hear, have conversations about that. And this is a project that was an enduring project of his during the emergency, when he decided that because of curfew, he spent a lot of time being in the old Delhi, not going home because of the curfew restrictions. And he started looking at this wall. And this wall for him was so fascinating, a wall that started from old Delhi and ran till Kasturba Gandhi Hospital. And that was the wall. And I'm forgetting the person's name who has written brilliantly. I think it's Vishwanathan, isn't it? Shiv Vishwanathan, the sociologist, who wrote a beautiful, beautiful text on Confessions of the Wall, where he talks about this is not that very monumental wall, which is the Great China Wall or the Berlin Wall. This is a modest wall, but so rich. Because here, this is that wall where people pass through the day. They are walking, they are laboring, they are sitting, they are pausing, they are sleeping, they are painting. Everything is happening on this wall. And it is revelatory of the situation of India. It was so rich with information that Raghu spent, I think God knows how many photographs it took to make this whole project, which is a book project literally called Confessions of the Wall, which was also shown at KNMA. And this started with this little girl who was drawing graffiti on this wall. And then it goes on. It has many images. I've only chosen a few. यहाँ पे लिखा है, read Vedas, आत्मा की शांति के लिए गीता पढ़ें. You will see all kinds of pravachans, you will see graffiti, you will see humor, you will see black humor, you will see sarcasm. Everything just comes on the wall, So, and then contradictions and contrast, man, suited, booted gentleman, another person really half bent, literally walking in his, in the way he is. I'm just going to show a few images. And then, of course, his street life. He was known for, he was a great photographer as far as the streets are concerned, because he captured the momentum really of streets. And what you see the most in this, of course, it was displayed in a way also where many windows opened simultaneously, because he took us inside doors and thresholds and brought us out, and sometimes with people leaning from walls and terraces like this. A lot going on at the same time. You go in from the door, you come out with the child who's peeping from the window, who's peeping out. There is somebody else on that terrace, there's somebody sitting on the wall. This is India. You so uniquely and so distinctly think about the character of India, and how, I mean, people literally live on the streets. The street life is so full of energy and full of so much happening. And that is what Raghu loved to capture a lot. And then comes the train stations of Bombay. He was fascinated. He says Bombay stations are like a sea of humanity. You are in a sea where you just have people all over. And he spent a lot of time at Victoria and other stations in Bombay, chasing local trains, looking at trains coming and going, people coming and going. And I remember when I saw this photograph first, I told him I remember Salgado, the Brazilian photographer, documentary photographer. He said he was my friend, and he sent me very, very good messages when he saw my images, and he literally showed me those messages too. And Salgado had taken a lot of photographs of Bombay's train stations, and here is Raghu. So Raghu ran up and down and many other platforms to capture what he wanted to capture, and then finally he took this photograph by putting his camera on a pole, electric pole or some pole, and then giving an exposure, doing a long exposure, and then having people, because he was fascinated by so many people coming out from the train, and 3 men sitting and reading newspaper. That was his fascination. This is how we are. We can have the whole crowd around us, and we can still be in our own inner space and in our own selves and completely preoccupied. And that is what really made him take this great photograph. And he did many, of course, but I've just chosen one to show. And also something like this. I stood in front of this photograph for a very long time when I displayed it, because I said, Raghuji, how did you take this picture just when the man was in the air? He is neither inside, neither outside, neither on ground, And he says, "Yehi to bariki hai na, yehi to baat hai, So yehi to moment hota hai." So that moment has, the moment has really penetrated in my head so strongly, because I started looking at a lot of his photographs again and again, thinking about, yes, the man and his alertness. And he talked, and if I have to really sum it up in like a few lines about the learnings, I really heard him speak 2 words: receptivity and responsiveness. The first lesson you must learn is to be receptive. That is how you will capture. Your antennas must be out to capture. And responsiveness. You have received something, and how do you respond to it? That responsiveness was extremely important, and that alertness and awareness is what he spoke about constantly, in our conversations. And I think that is the agility that is required. Otherwise, you could be somebody who's a studio photographer, where you can make somebody sit in a studio. He could never do that. In fact, he told me that I could never excel as a portrait photographer, because that for me was too much. When Cézanne loved people to become an apple, because he said, he used to tell his models to sit like an apple, still and unmoving. But here is Raghu Rai, who would not be able to enjoy a portrait so much. And even when he took pictures of the great iconic figures and, politicians or spiritual leaders, he was always on the move with them. He was not sitting in one place, or neither did he tell Indira Gandhi to sit in one place. It was almost like he was flowing with the flow of her actions and her energy and following her. And that's how I think a lot of people who have written such fantastic tributes to Raghu Rai, they all have spoken about the man who really could combine reportage with art. Reportage didn't remain reportage. It became visual aesthetic, it became visual power, it became meaningful, it carried some comment. He could really do that in a way that it rarely happens. And look, when he showed me this first, and he had gifted me some of his books, and he said, here, Indira Gandhi is the man in the room. And this is a Congress session, late hours at night when she's working, and they've come with a proposal that they're discussing. And she said, all these men, they would wait endlessly, when will she open her mouth and say yes or no, okay? So she is the man actually in the room. But he also took very intimate pictures of her in domestic situations, many other situations where she would be a dinner at home, and here is our Prime Minister who's pulling out plates and glasses and laying the table and things like that, or seeing Amrita Shergill's exhibition with Sonia Gandhi. And something like this, a lot of photographs of her pace of walking. She was always energetic, the hand gestures, the feet as she moved, and even as she is tired, rallying for elections and having a cup of tea with banana with her own picture on the wall. Not to miss that, yeah. So that was some of those pictures, and I'll quickly run you through some of the spiritual leaders that he very fondly spoke about. And he said that with Mother Teresa, it was really a very different kind of friendship that he developed. He had this knack of convincing people, which is very difficult to do. He was a towering man, he was intimidating to many people, he had a very sharp tongue, but he could convince people to take pictures which they would otherwise not allow. Like in the missionaries of charity, he would go at a time when no man is allowed. He would sneak in. Mother Teresa would get angry. He would say sorry and say, because the picture was looking, it was looking ethereal, with all the white sisters with their white robes in the balcony, and so I took a picture. I'm sorry, but this is the photograph I've taken. He was able to do that. And here he talked about a very beautiful thing to me. What my lesson was from her? She taught me two things. She taught me, don't look at things, look into things. Look into people, not look at people. This looking inside is so important, and that is why he could actually capture their aura, capture their presences in a very different way. It was not that he was given an assignment and so he had to just fulfill an assignment. All assignments went beyond professional assignments, and they became something more for him, and they grew into something more for him because he was that person. 2-3 minutes. And here is Mother Teresa. She's climbing stairs. Behind is Jesus on the cross, and there's light flooding her feet, literally, and that's what the aura that he captured of Mother Teresa. And for things that she was known for, literally. I'm going to quickly move, and I'm going to show two images because I really love these two together. That's young His Holiness Dalai Lama, when he was very young. Since then, Raghu photographed him for 40 years, I believe. The clouds are up in the sky, the Himalayas are always there behind, and he is relaxing. And this is after many, many years on the right side. After he went through a surgery and things, and he asked Raghu, do I look healthy? do I look okay? Have I really aged? And Raghu said, no, you look wiser and you look calmer, something like that. And then he said, you look like just the Himalayas. You've turned into a mountain, literally a mountain, and that's the mountain. He's sitting like a mountain. He's wrapping the shawl because it was cold. And I really, really adore this photograph, the way that he captured Dalai Lama after many years. This is Ayodhya, and I'm just showing two pictures, two photographs, because what I like about them is that he took photographs before the demolition. So what was the atmosphere that early morning before the demolition took place? It was peaceful. A man is giving chanas to the monkey. Another man is standing on a cart like a Jesus Christ image. There are many such images before the demolition. Finally, I think I end with this image because I think that this was very important for him when he looked in the streets where people gathered and saw these tamashas, on the road. He would think a lot about many things. One of the things that he thought about is a rational empathy. I don't know, this is a very contradictory term, but an empathy that comes with reasoning. You start thinking about accountability, you start thinking about ethical witnessing, you start thinking about responsibility, you start thinking about survival. You start thinking about so much, and a man caught in the air. You never know whether he'll come back, he'll fall down normal, or he may lose a limb, or he may lose his life, And that was Raghu Rai. He always talked about how he believed that for him photography was not about closure. I wonder whether it was about disclosure. I sit to think, I even think now many times, that it was not a closure because he always believed in the incompleteness of life. Often he said, when he made the Chowri Bazaar work, he said, I want that after many, many years, if everything was the same and this slice of reality was fixed back into that space, it would start working the same way as it did. Okay, thank you so much.
ये रघु का मैंने पोर्ट्रेट बनाया था करीब 40 साल पहले, उससे 40 से ज़्यादा, ऑयल का. Yeah, I was going to project it, but then it's not here. Then there's the ink portrait I did in 1984. And this is one I did recently. It's very difficult to talk about a friend and who has recently passed away. I knew Lata Mangeshkar in Bombay, and she passed away. And many, many artist friends have passed away recently in the course of time. Raghu and I knew each other for more than 60 years when I lived in Bombay, and he had come to Bhulabhai Institute, and I came to Delhi in 1968. I will read a poem that I wrote on him many, many years ago. Raghu Zerog, he is RR. He is the only one succeeds, sustains and survives through all seasons. Raghu stitches his own jacket, long and lavish, but his only concern and weakness is hair. Tried all oils, and touch me not. He cleans his lens with rough blue denim He's a Jat, friend of Jatin. He's also a Sagittarius, greased his face with a Nivea all day long. Greasy fellow. And he was a very dear friend. His elder brother, S. Paul, was a great photographer who knew photography, camera and everything. This fellow knew nothing about camera, believe me or not. And he was really a Jat. And he will put his tongue between his teeth and eat with his left hand and take a denim shirt and clean the lens, which is rough and very bad for the lens. And you saw that a lovely photograph of that Gadha, which he took. And I remember, as Paul said, it's lovely. And that's how he started. He didn't sing. He used to sing a lot. He will stand behind the door and give a rhythm and sing. And in recent years has not sung at all. India International Center is a place we used to come and have a drink together. And we all used to drink rum before. But he will order a whiskey, put Coke in it, put some mint in it, and then say it's tasting very nice, because it tastes like rum, you know. You get my point? And so he was a Jat, you know. And when this child was very tiny, he will, 6 months, 8 months old, whatever, and he will rush out for photography, you know. And there are so many events, so many things. I was just, while she was speaking, I was making some points that I was, you know, a Gadha ka photograph. I introduced him to Doshi, the B.V. Doshi, the famous architect. And next week he did a book on him. You know? He was a fantastic fellow, but mad. But he was not born to be a photographer. And that's the beauty of it, that uska naam tha Gujarati in Ahmedabad, who's not trained as a painter, but he does fantastic paintings and drawings, you know. It's like Kumarji was a very dear friend. Kumar Gandhav was a very dear friend of mine and his. And Kumarji would say, Jatin bhai, chalo, music khatam ho gaya, ab isra usadi piyenge. Matlab, let's have a drink together. You know? Or he and I, Raghu and I, used to go to many music concerts. And kya unka naam was the lady, the Maharashtrian lady who's a fantastic singer, Kishore Singh. And we knew her very well. But when she's singing, Raghu will spread his leg and sit there. He says, Chida baito. You know? So, there are innumerable things and publicly can't be shared. You know? But a very dear friend. And we went together to many places. All over the country, all over the... Say, we went to Sri Lanka. What is that gallery with the very famous, and a restaurant? And we sat there. So he said, why don't we have something like this in India? You know? When he was Usha Kakanagar, na? So they lived in Kakanagar first, then opposite Khan Market, then many places. And he will go and trim the trees. और कोई टेबल में कुछ गड्ढा है तो उसको लाके फिर सब उसको he will fill it in and clean it up. But singing was quite a lot there before, and he stopped singing, you know. And I don't know what to say about him, but I brought some photographs. Is it possible? Would you have patience to see? Will you have, because, I gave it to him. He took the pen drive. These are his family, the children and others. So बड़ा करो इसको, बड़ा कर लो, छोटा दिखाई नहीं जा रहा है. ये सबका पोर्ट्रेट स्केच कहीं किया था, उसका पोर्ट्रेट. फिर देखो ऐसे करते जाओ, बस दिखा दो बस. चलो अच्छा, और कुछ है दिखा दो थोड़ा. ये हो गया. दूसरा कुछ है. Yeah, he's taken. He would, if I ring him up, there was a time I ring him up, he'll come in 10 minutes and take photograph of my painting. And these days I have to tell him for 2-3 weeks. This was an oil I did many years ago. So, yeah, this is in my studio. And he took the photograph. He arranged the lens and then came and took the photograph. Or kuch dikha do. This is the sculpture I did in Bhilai, which was broken down when they made a bridge, and he came and took the photograph. Next, please. और भी कुछ है, थोड़ा दिखा दे. नहीं. ये लिया नहीं. मेरे पेन ड्राइव में छोटा सा कर दिया. अच्छा, anyway, but I wish he was here, He was a very, very dear friend. And we have lost many, many friends. Between close friends, we never talked about our work. We talked about drinks, we talked about food, we talked about lovely music, or we saw a very good dance, whatever. These days, if you go to an exhibition and a 20-year-old boy or a girl explains his or her painting for 1 hour, And then one day I went to inaugurate something, I caught hold of a boy and another girl. I said, are the photo transferred? They said yes. So they are doing a lot of photo transfer and then overpainting on it. So lots of things have changed, and I remember Rajiv Gandhi. Rajiv Gandhi invited us both for coffee or tea, and Rajiv Gandhi was searching for some. So he gave his Nivea cream and a handkerchief to wipe his face. So like that. There are innumerable anecdotes. Can't be shared in public, but between friends. There are a lot of friends here, but it's very overwhelming to talk about a friend who has passed away recently. I remember when he got married to my brain is not working these days. Went to the Sardar temple, Gurdwara, and they got married there, near Khan Market, And there are many places we went together, many places. I remember when we worked in Statesman, and I was coming from Bombay, this was 1966, and he was waiting inside, and then he came to the balcony and I was walking down, ये photo कुछ भी नहीं दिखाया, अभी मैंने दिया था. So he took a photograph of that, 1966. I was walking down to his. He mainly worked in black and white, and then he changed to color and digital. He was not very happy with it because the colors went to be a little more synthetic feeling. But anyway, he did. Ashok did a fantastic function at Lalit Kala when he was the chairman, and Raghu and Yashodhara were there, and Raghu was pulling my leg. And he said, "Tu aise hi kyun har waqt painting karta hai?" So Ramachandran was sitting there. You see, a lot of these friends have gone away. A. Ramachandran was a great artist and a dear friend. So Ramachandran said, "Go tujhe alag se kahi bolta aise to theek hai, but in public he should not talk like this." So aise hi tha Raghu. Raghu's brother was trained as a photographer as small. Raghu was, and that was the beauty of it, he was not trained properly. And he was a judge. You know? No, that's why he was so fresh and real. You know? But thank you very much. Sorry.
So, two very hard acts to follow in any way. Unlike everyone who has spoken here, and probably everyone in the audience or a lot of people in the audience, I didn't personally know Raghu Rai. Though I may have seen him in the room sometimes, and I know his work, I can't say that we ever had a conversation. But the reason I'm here this evening is not because, as Ashokji insists on saying, I'm a social scientist, which I'm not, is because of a connection that I feel that might even be more valuable than a personal friendship or a social acquaintance. And this is the connection that I have with his photographs, and through his photographs, with India itself. More importantly, it's what John Berger called ways of seeing that I learned from Raghu Rai's photographs, particularly ways of seeing some of the people, places and things that I find most precious about India. I would go so far as to say that I cannot even think of Pandit Bhimsen Joshi or Ustad Bismillah Khan, of the Taj Mahal or the Parliament House, of Churchgate Station or the Howrah Bridge, of the Dalai Lama or Mother Teresa, without in my mind's eye seeing one of Raghu Rai's images. Always. His camera is the eye through which one looks at India, if not all of India, then at least a certain India. Now, which India am I talking about? An India that is crowded, poor, filthy, squalid and decaying? Third world India, pre-liberalization India, socialist India, non-aligned India? India teeming with ragged children, with laboring masses, with goats and pigeons, with dhobi ghats and chawls and fish markets, with the ruins of empires past and the broken promises of an ever-elusive freedom? एक सिल की तरह जैसे गिरी है स्वतंत्रता और पिचक गया है पूरा देश. That's a line from my own father, Kailash Vajpeyi's poem Rajdhani, which was published in his first anthology, Sankrant, sometime in the mid-1960s. But no, because look, another dust storm, another monsoon shower, boats in the river, people at the waterfront momentarily liberated from the tedium and toil of their everyday life by the breezes from the Arabian Sea, from the Ganga, from the Hooghly, by rain, blessed downpour, quenching the heat and thirst of millions at the end of every summer. Children impoverished but smiling from ear to ear. Acrobats turning tricks. Tender moments between a man and his cart horse, his pet stork, his emaciated donkey, his performing monkey, his street dog, his placid cow. Crowds gathered and agape at some small wonder, some ordinary miracle. The toppled pillars of a palace, the airplane taking off over a slum beyond the beautiful forevers, always, always, in Raghu Rai's way of seeing. Encore un instant de bonheur, a flash of redemption in the area of darkness that was Naipaul's grim description of India. Raghu Rai's eye invariably reveals the lotus in the muddy pond, the bird that takes wing, whatever undercurrent of vitality that keeps the world turning, that keeps India alive, and Roobina used the words pulsating momentum, despite every portent of its destruction. Raghu Rai's images are images of movement, change, effort, transformation, action. Ambassador cars, cycle rickshaws, men and women, birds and animals, gods and goddesses, buses and trains, cattle and trams, corpses burning at Manikarnika and spectators at a Ram Leela in the Maidan. Everything is in motion. What defies colonialism, defies poverty, violence, death? Nothing other than existence itself, the unstoppable surge of life within and around us, which a master like Raghu Rai can sometimes capture, reveal in a burst of light, a frame for all time to remind us of why we love this imperfect land of ours. I needn't say much, perhaps, of the many beautiful photographs that Raghu Rai has taken of objects that are themselves utterly beautiful. The Taj Mahal, the temples of Khajuraho, the remains of Vijayanagara, the vista of Rajpath and India Gate from the top of Raisina Hill. The most I would say, the most I would note is that when something is so obviously spectacular, it still takes a special way of seeing to make us take note yet again of the pearl that hangs upon the cheek of time, as Tagore described the Taj, or the jewel in the crown of the British Raj, as Lutyens and Le Corbusier imagined the imperial capital of Delhi in the early 20th century. At the very least, Raghu Rai makes us look again, even at familiar objects, at scenes already saturated with meaning. His portraits of extraordinary individuals capture the essence of their subjects, and also their singularity, their absolutely unique way of being. So his Indira Gandhi conveys a certain neurotic power. His Jayaprakash Narayan embodies grassroots dissent. His Mother Teresa radiates service, piety, and mercy. His Dalai Lama exudes the spirituality, the calm, the gentle humor, the courage, perhaps the mountainous courage, as we heard, of an enlightened one, maintaining his dispassionate composure even in this age of Kali. It is not easy to photograph a ruler, a revolutionary, a saint, or a Buddha, persons who are quintessentially that, and yet he does. If Raghu Rai's lively street scenes and sweeping panoramas, his dossiers on Delhi, Banaras, Bombay, and Calcutta, his picturesque views of Ladakh and Rajasthan, his portraits of artists and actors and politicians and gurus, if all of his oeuvre were put on one side, and on the other side we had just his studies of India's classical musicians, I would say that the latter is the heavier side. It carries more weight. And that's my judgment. You need not agree with it. Why do I say this? Look again at his photos of Kumar Gandharv and Mallikarjun Mansoor, Kishore Monkar and MS Subbulakshmi, and as I said earlier, of Bhimsen and Bismillah, Allah Rakha and Zakir Hussain, Ravi Shankar and Nushka Shankar, Ali Akbar Khan and Amjad Ali Khan, what do we see? Emotional intensity, absolute immersion, aesthetic transport, concentration that could carve a raga on a rock. Everything we cannot see, the music itself, the sadhana, the riyaz, the ecstasy and the agony, in a Raghu Rai photograph, all of this becomes visible. Poetry, song, tune and rhythm all manifest in the faces and bodies, the hands and the instruments, the closed eyes and the uplifted arms of Raghu Rai's ecstatic musicians. One wishes he had been there to photograph Meera and Kabir, Nanak and Bulle Shah, Amir Khusro and Tulsidas. If Raghu Rai's camera can show us the extraordinary energy and richness of the everyday, it can equally well show us the sharp focus, Tan Rabab Man Ki Dhuri or Rage Bhai Saptar, the one that suffuses the plurality of the world. Through his musicians, he literally shows us what is beyond form or color, what cannot be seen with our two eyes, only perhaps with the third eye, which opens in another dimension. So what can we conclude about Raghu Rai then? Is he a chronicler of our nation's present, the ever-rolling wheel of its history, जो भी घट रहा है आंखों के सामने? Or is he able to show us what is beyond space and time, avyakt, alak, anirvachaniya? Some of you would remember his chilling photos from Ayodhya. We just saw a glimpse of them. Taken on December 5th, 1992. The cold morning, the grimacing policemen, the eerie monkeys, the gathering crowds of car sevaks, the disputed structure soon to be demolished, the Babri Masjid in the background. Others may have seen his absolutely dystopian, nightmarish photos from Bhopal after the gas leak of 1984, or his restrained but telling chronicling of the emergency. We saw a little flash of that as well with the wall. The confabulating congressmen around Indira Gandhi that you showed us, the forced sterilizations, the bulldozing of slums, the drama of elections, the rise of the Janata Party, it's all there. Raghu Rai's photographs tell a story with a clarity, a precision that would put any historian to shame. Everything we need to know is there, right there, in the frame. The tumult of time arrested at the exact moment where a mere event is becoming history. Speaking for myself, I follow and admire and know many photographers, but for every other photographer, including Sebastião Salgado, I would say, one can see their images. One can see their images. For Raghu Rai, one sees with his images. His photography becomes our way of seeing what Tagore called the shadow-dappled mortal world. Thank you.
Well, friends, you have heard three speakers, and now is the time to see a film made by Raghu Rai's daughter, Avni. Would you like to say something? No, she just wants to show the film.
Jatin said don't talk, only show.
Only show, okay, good. Thank you. Show the film.
You see, as Bresso used to say, that you have to have a cool eye and a warm heart. So, if you are observing those kind of situations and photographing them, to photograph the intensity and power of it, you have to have silence inside.
This is the first time I was shooting him. I was not thinking of making a film. It was just for myself. I wanted to observe him, to know him better.
Yeah.
Just take each other's photos for now.
Yeah, how to change modes and things.
So how come you bought this camera? What's so nice about it?
Baby, it takes panoramic pictures, stitches it right away. Come ना देख baby, छोड़ना उसको baby बाद में करना. मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रही. I'm too excited to handle it. कि कितनी space लेता बगैर panorama के करना. कर.
I was fascinated with the way he walked into people's lives, almost shamelessly. Why is it that his viewfinder smiles at everything, and everything seemed to smile back? The Dal Lake stands still, but the valley is caught in violent cycles of terrorism, civil unrest, and brutal violation of human rights.
फोकस का एक पॉइंट रखो तो बैकग्राउंड जो फोकस क्यों एवरीथिंग हैज टू बी इन फोकस बच्चे वही तो बात है आ जाओ अंदर भी खींच सकते हैं बाहर से जी जी बहुत खूबसूरत जी
There is peace inside the mosque. Outside, there is one soldier to every 7 civilians. making it the most militarized land on earth. There is a sense of hostility and fear in their eyes.
When I was 5 years old, India, Pakistan separated, the partition took place. And we were running from one camp to another, and how the houses were set on fire. So these memories are still there. So when I am photographing the refugees in Bangladesh, I can relate to them without being bogged down by it. My process is to capture and leave it there.
Maybe it's wrong. Wide angle section.
Papa, when those other people were making a documentary on you, did you tell them how to shoot?
Oh yes, I don't let them shoot from low angle. वो करते हैं ना, you camera नीचे डाल के. I say don't do this, yeah.
When I was small, his dark room was in our bathroom. Prints were drying everywhere. We used to run around, trying to not step on them. One lady was always there. He called her mother, so we thought she is our grandmother.
So the first time, my first experience in 1970 when I was photographing, mother says, you don't come tomorrow. I said, why not, mother? She says, tomorrow is Easter Day. And I don't want anybody to be walking around and taking pictures when we are in prayers. So for a moment I was like taken aback. I said, oh my God. So I said, mother, you say two things. Two things are very precious to you. One is that to do the seva, to look after the poorest of the poor, give them that care and compassion. She says, yes. I said, second thing you say, that after you've done that, you connect with the Lord to rejuvenate yourself? She says, yes. I said, Mother, I've done half the story. The other half is missing. I said, I have never seen him who he is, but I know it. When you sit in prayers, he lands in your eyes. So Mother, you can't deny me this. So she says, all right, with one condition, that you come tomorrow at 6 a.m. and you sit with me at one place and take pictures. She says, is that a promise? I said, yes, Mother. So I reach there next morning, Mother sees me with a smile and she says, come with me. So she takes me upstairs to the chapel. The hall is full of sisters. So Mother sits here. She makes me sit 3-4 feet away from her. And then after a while, her habit used to be like, hold these hands like this and then go into prayers. And she goes into prayer. And her whole face and hands, the way she was connected, was so amazing. And sitting there was not giving me the picture. And I had to get up, take few pictures from here. So after the prayers got over, finally Mother gets up. So I said, Mother, forgive me, I couldn't keep my promise. So she looked into my eyes. She held my hands. She said, oh, God has given you this assignment. You must do it well. So like this, I have had such great experiences with Mother, one after another, one after another. No other religious leader will ever do that. He says, God has given you, she says, God has given you this assignment, you must do it well.
One day in school, my classmate asked, have you seen this? There is a photograph taken by your father in our textbook. I felt proud. It was a photograph of Indira Gandhi.
Indira Gandhi was very tough, very strong and ruthless leader at times, but also very humane. Let me tell you, when we look back, now we've had several other prime ministers after her death, she was the only one who respected artists, creative people, who respected heritage, and who respected environments. None of the other prime ministers so far have made a difference to us on that level. The emergency was declared, so we couldn't do stories and photographs which had political overtones that went against her. I've started photographing a wall in Old Delhi, a wall which had lots of writing on the wall, a lot of messages, a lot of drawings and things, and broken wall somewhere, and people sitting in front of it doing different things, people moving up and down against that wall. So I did a big feature and an exhibition called The Wall. was shooting in Jama Masjid area. I see a poor man collecting posters. So one of the posters where there was a picture of Indira Gandhi, and in the backdrop was "Hum do hamare do," and that was the slogan for family planning. And according to me, the way I had smelt it in all these days, of election campaign, that Congress was losing very badly. So I came to the office, I made a nice big print and took it to Kuldeep Nair, my editor. So he looked at the picture, he says, "Wow, very good, Raghu, fantastic picture." And then he looked at it and then he says, "But we can't use it." I said, "Why not?" He says, No, if she doesn't lose, both of us will be in jail. Counting was happening from the next day morning, and by the evening he rang me up at my house. He said, "Raghu, they're losing, now we can use it." So it was used big like a photo editorial, So, after this picture was published, Indira Gandhi lost it and everything. So one of the newspapers had interviewed me about, that Indira Gandhi gave you Padma Shri and then you published this picture. Where is your loyalty? So I said, let me tell you, my loyalty is not to Congress, Janata Dal, this leader or that leader. I said, loyal jo hai, kutte hote hain. I am not loyal to any political party. I am loyal to capture the truth of the situation as it speaks to me.
I was 5 years old when I saw the photograph of the dead boy in Bhopal for the first time. Now, 20 years later, I stand here amongst the victims whose lives are affected forever.
तो लोगों ने पिया, लेकिन उनके देश जो निकला था वो तो एक ही दिन लोगों ने खाया था। और पानी जो पिया लोगों ने 22 बस्तियों वालों ने कम से कम 8 साल पानी पिया। तो पानी अंदर इंसान के शरीर के अंदर जो गया उसका जहर पेट में घुला। कई 22 बस्तियों की कई लड़कियां ऐसी हैं कि जुमा बनने की लायक नहीं है।
Listen, first of all, you forget about the New Year Eve if you want to be a professional. Okay. Second thing, I told you and I'm telling you again, that going to Jamuna and shooting that little documentary for 5 minutes, slice can be very, very interesting. And I have done stills and I never felt happy because the energy and the expression it requires, can't be said and done, shown in one shot. And you want to just sit next to your Papa and feel secure and being loved and happy and keep shooting.
Don't talk shit, Papa.
That's the way I feel.
Please don't feel that.
And I mean it seriously, I'm not joking.
He is behind me every time I look at myself in the mirror. Every time I turn to look at life. As a teacher, he wants to pass on all the knowledge to me, yet be my own. But as a father, he cannot let me go.
When you connect with every inch of space and every energy, emotion that is floating around, primarily you are in very silent zone where yourself is become a sensor. You are part of that whole. And when the sensor of your soul is receiving and ticking with the spirit and the energy of the place, and that's the time where oneness comes, even nature begins to perform for you, because you are not a separate entity anymore. And that's the time when there comes a moment of intensity and magic, and then you see, you miss a heartbeat, and your situation has acquired that heartbeat. So when you captured that moment has captured, that moment has the power of the heartbeat that you lent it to it. Having said that, you kept looking that side and this side, that side, and you were spoiling my concentration. You've done so far. Talking about photography, or when you are filming me, I am not your father. Please be there. I am not your father. I am your character.
When you are writing a scene, तब फील सुना होता है जब मैं
इधर आओ, समझ लो वन करोड़ फीलिंग क्या होती है। देखो ये पेड़ यूं जा रहा है ना, और वो बादल जो देख यूं जाके यूं बंद हो रहे हैं, ये यूं जा रहा है। दिस इज अ फीलिंग। पर जनरल अगर आप खींच के दिखा दो कि भाई देखो ये है, मीन्स नथिंग।
Cartier-Bresson once said, when you close one eye and look through the viewfinder, one eye looks at the world and the other looks inside you. As he speaks, I listen. We both shoot. I don't know if in this journey our camera will separate us or connect us. As we drive in the Himalayas, he feels more and more connected. He says he has died here so many times. I feel he gets closer to something, and that's why he keeps coming back.
I would like to check your hand how much time. Oh, yes, yes. You should realize complete freedom. Okay.
In the photograph of the Dalai Lama, I feel the energy. My father has that energy too. My father searches for something that he will never find, so he tries harder each time. I feel that is his strength.
A portrait is something where you, through physical presence of the person, you capture the inner aura of the individual, which reflects his energy, his character. समझे ना? और ये सोचना कि पोर्ट्रेट इस स्टाइल में और उस स्टाइल में है, आप किसी भी स्टाइल में करें, आपका फ्रेम कुछ भी हो, उसमें एक अपनी wholesomeness होनी चाहिए. And finally, that when anybody looks at that portrait, who doesn't know the person, And yet that picture holds your attention because it has captured the power and the energy of that moment.
He has never been interested in glamour. He looks for more. He finds it in ordinary people and in their daily lives, in writers and in artists, and even the political leaders of this country.
Especially in India, politics plays a huge role. And we are governed and programmed by it because everything is controlled. Everywhere there's politics of some kind. Everywhere there's corruption of some kind, which is again controlled by the politicians. So political situations have great implications in our daily lives. Politicians can speak beautiful lines, but while they are saying it, do their eyes have the same intensity and honesty? What they speak is not important. What their body language and eyes say is what matters. In Kashmir, I witnessed violence for the first time. I took photographs of men with guns, another species in Kashmir. They, I felt, had become so immune to violence that a non-violent day felt abnormal to them. We met people who had experienced this violence.
आपका बच्चा कितनी उम्र का है, कब से?
कम से कम 31-32 साल का।
और कितने साल से है कस्टडी में?
अभी तो हो गए 3 महीने।
अच्छा।
हाँ जी सर, 3 महीना होगा।
क्या
वो जमात पढ़ने के लिए गया था, जमात। तो वो घर से जब घर से वापस आते हैं तो उस टाइम में उससे पासपोर्ट में ले लिया।
अच्छा।
बोला था इसको छोड़ दे, उसने नहीं छोड़ा जमात पढ़ने के लिए।
और नाम क्या पूरा बताइए?
मेरा जिन तांत्रे उसका नाम।
महराज
दीन तांत्रे।
ये तो हम महबूबा जी से बात करेंगे इसके बारे में। आज बुलाइए। खुदा आपको आपके बेटे को जल्दी से जल्दी हो।
हमारे पास जमीन में कुछ भी नहीं।
आप चौक में बैठे थे, कर्फ्यू के बाद पता नहीं गाड़ियाँ 5-6 आ गई। हाँ। तो पहली जो गाड़ियाँ थी वो सीधे चली गई।
आप थोड़ा और पाँव पास करके ना ऐसे ऊपर हाथ ऊपर रख लीजिए। हाँ ऐसे यहाँ।
और आपको ये आंख में और
इस आंख में लगा था वो। हाँ। तो इसने डैमेज दोनों आंखों में किया।
किया?
पुलिस क्या मदद करेगी? उन्हीं ने जो किया।
I don't think he sees himself as a particular type of photographer. So, why he chooses the subject he chooses in terms of his books are concerned, why His Holiness, why Mother Teresa, why the musicians. I mean, if somebody asks him that question, I've heard him answer this, that अगले जन्म में मैं म्यूजिशियन बनूंगा, कहीं पे भी बैठ के आप समाधि लगा सकते हो, you don't have to run around the countryside. It's like as if going into himself more and more, you know.
In my childhood, if anybody would have asked me what would you like to become, which nobody did, I would have liked to become a musician. I had bought a violin, I had a harmonium and a flute also. I tried my hand on everything, but it didn't go anywhere. So I decided to give it up.
Children of nature, and when nature speaks, we have to listen, he tells me.
Photography is dekhna. Dekhna is not just seeing, dekhna is darshan karna, to see in totality, in its entirety. And that's what I feel कि कण-कण में भगवान से वो आपको खींच के ले जाते हैं कि बच्चे कुछ भी इग्नोर करने लायक नहीं इस दुनिया में, पास से देख, करीब से देख, सबको समझ. जब आप करीब से देखने लगते हैं तो आपको दर्शन होंगे ही. This is not my profession. This is my ishq. This is my madness. I went to the Hampi rocks. I see a set of rocks standing on top of each other. 5, 6 rocks like this. So I go right under the rock. And then I see the inner character and texture and their standing and support of each other, which was so amazing. So I stood under the rocks
and here the lens of the camera rotates like that. It captures the whole experience of being there. But how I wish that I can, with one click of my camera, can capture the whole cosmos in one frame, which has all those energies and forms and textures and expressions that come together. तो मेरी दीवानगी जो है इतनी सिंपल और ऑर्डिनरी नहीं है, and it has grown and intensified with the years. मैं रघु राय को कभी माफ नहीं करता हूँ जब वो पूरा उसको पूर्णता उसकी ग्रहण नहीं कर पाता है.
He often told me what Khalil Gibran wrote. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. I cannot inherit what my father did. I cannot inherit his eye. Not like a daughter inherits her father's.
I mean, India in 50, 60 years has been changing very drastically. And for me, bulk of the change it doesn't enrich me as a human being. And the change is not all that great for the country, for the common people, for the ordinary people in their daily lives. So this is where the crises are. Driving around Dal Lake, center of Srinagar, I see a bull raise his hand and shrieking out. Then I see 3 men standing on the side and a bird flies off. They are looking for freedom from tension, from violence. So these are the images which indirectly reflect what is going on in the lives of Kashmiris. This idea in mind, I decided to go to Hazrat Bal, where they were going to be showing the hair of the Prophet. Seeing the locket from far away, everyone at the shrine goes into frenzy, and especially the women folks. And for them, it is here and now that they need to talk to him on one-to-one basis, that please relieve us of the pain and suffering that is going on around us.
They say a photograph tells more about the observer than the observed. We went to shoot the seagulls again. My father said, take the shot when your frame is full of them. This is the photograph I took.